And welcome to this week's episode of the UFO Show here on the Area 51 Sports Network, brought to you by Bet99Sportsbook.com. Make sure to head over to Area51Sportsnetwork.com/betting. There is a link on that page. If you click that link, you can get up to $600 as a bonus added to your total. So whatever you put into the website, up to $600, you get back as a bonus. So as always, back with Andy. And today we have a very special guest from the Van Slam on the Area 51 Sports Network. You know him from also the NEW Wrestling Show, as well as 10 years later, Mr. Jay Bowman. How are you doing today?
Hey, guys. Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Bowman, you got 9 podcasts going on now?
I have 4. I have room for one more. So if anybody wants get a comic book podcast going, I'd be more than happy to do that. 'Cause basically one per interest. I feel like what I've budgeted out. But yeah, 4 shows currently right now.
Wow.
So in case you weren't aware, Bowman is a big basketball fan. He likes a little team out of Philadelphia called the 76ers. So, you're on Van Slam, which is full basketball. You're on TTP, which talks about the 76ers. But I want to ask you one question before we jump into this basketball talk. You on 10 years later have talked vigorously about Jackass, the franchise. You guys have reviewed some of the movies in the past. So What is your thoughts going into this 4th one?
I'm worried for them. It's been a while. I'm excited to see it. I mean, I feel like a lot of it is very nostalgia driven. I think it's going to do really well at the box office because, I remember seeing that first one in theaters on opening night and what a wild experience that was. So no, I'm excited about it. I'm really pumped to see it. I hope they're safe and they're healthy and they're happy. But also, I just saw the thing leak today where PK Subban is apparently in it, and they test the strength of cups when it comes to slap shots. So that's going to be an awesome stunt to see.
I know that they also bring out the pound for pound hardest hitter in UFC and test those cups as well.
Yeah, well, that was one of my favorite bits, I think, for the first Jackass, was where he fought Butterbean in the department store boxing match, and Butterbean just battered the crap out of him. Or I think it was the third one or the second one where they did a football thing and he caught a pass over the middle and had Jared Allen go full speed and take him out. Yeah, that was horrible. That's worse than any of the porta potty stuff or any of that sort of stuff. Just having a in their prime athlete just completely rally you like that. Oof. Yeah, it's not something I want to do.
Johnny Knoxville is, I think, almost 50 years old. So to think that he's doing that at 50 is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'm a wrestling guy too, and he was just at the Royal Rumble last Saturday. He was involved, and he's been involved the last couple of weeks in wrestling. So, took a couple rough shots, but nothing I wouldn't expect from Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah. So let's jump right here into the basketball talk. The 76ers do not play as of right now. They're not playing today, but the NBA does have full control of the viewing schedule unless you want to watch the Pro Bowl skills competition today, which I don't even think is televised unless you have the NFL network. So let's jump into a little bit about the 76ers and their potential. Are they going to make the playoffs? Are they going to win the division? I saw somewhere that Ben Simmons has now forfeited $19 million in salary.
That's right.
Yeah. It's interesting because you on Trust the Process, you guys talk about Rich Paul and on Van Slam you talk about Rich Paul. And it seems to be a little bit of a curse because you have Ben Simmons sitting out, and then you have the whole Adele situation in Vegas that just occurred. So do you think that Rich Paul is kind of a curse on whoever gets close to him?
Yes, I would say so. The way Rich Paul and Clutch Management have handled the entire Ben Simmons saga is just a masterclass in like what not to do. They have bungled this at every opportunity. Any attempt to make Simmons look sympathetic at all has completely blown up in their faces. The other night, huge game, the 76ers and the Grizzlies, big coming out party for Tyrese Maxey. And there have been several of those so far this season. So Maxey is, by default, he's now the starting point guard in lieu of Ben Simmons. And he's taken a massive, massive leap this year. Everybody in Philadelphia loves this guy. Even going back to the playoffs last year, whenever Simmons would sit down and Maxey would come off the bench, there was just such an injection of energy for the team and the way he would drive to the hoop, lay it all out there. Like Maxey's a special, special guy. So the other night, Embiid's out. He has a rest day after like 21 games straight. And then they're playing one of the top teams in the West. Maxey has a terrific 30-plus point performance, including the bucket that seals it in overtime. Everybody loves this guy in the city of Philadelphia. And the next day, this story comes out with Ben Simmons talking about this and why he's holding out and how he was like disappointed that this was the crazy thing. He was disappointed that Embiid threw him under the bus, and Simmons didn't say anything about Embiid's performance when they lost to the Raptors in 2019. Embiid, who was the best player on the 76ers outside of Jimmy Butler during that series, so we didn't really have a case there. But also, he talked about how he was frustrated that Doc Rivers didn't come see him in LA during the offseason. And in the next paragraph, apparently, like, just openly admits that, yeah, he didn't answer any of Doc's texts or calls, but still was disappointed he didn't come. So he ghosted the man and then was upset that he didn't move heaven and earth to go out there and see him when he tried. So the fact that this comes the day after the big Maxey coming out party, where all anybody in Philadelphia sports wants to talk about is how great Tyrese Maxey is, with a little side of, we don't really need that Ben guy right now. We're doing just fine without him. Half a game out of number one in the East. Like, the timing of it is just so suspect and so lame. And did you see the thing with Shaq last week and then the thing with Shaq today?
I saw the one last week. Not today, though.
Okay, so Shaq was on another podcast and talked about how after that, Ben Simmons reached out through his DMs and basically like gave him a bunch of crap and was mad at Shaq for what Shaq said. And then Shaq basically just said, like, you're messing up the money now. He's like, Magic cleared the way for Michael Jordan to make the money that Michael Jordan made. Michael Jordan cleared the way for Shaq to make the money that Shaq made. Shaq cleared the way for Kevin Garnett to make that sort of money. And then now, like, Ben Simmons making that money and being a big, bit of a baby about things. Shaq just criticizing him for, ironically, his lack of being able to take criticism. And the fact that Simmons was so bothered that he goes at Shaq in his DMs. The host tried to get Shaq to say, oh, what did he say? And Shaq's obviously not going to do that. You don't do that. But Shaq was not shy to say that, yeah, he was mad at me. And also all I told him was, you're messing up that money and you're leaving your man out there by himself. So Sixers have had a great year, though.
So
Yeah.
is it
If I
safe to
remember
say
right,
he's acting a little pissy?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. Now, the troubling thing is with all the Simmons drama is that the reason he's not playing right now is the mental health issues. He's not mentally ready to play. It's come out that if he were to be traded, he'd be, in a better headspace and be able to play for whatever team. But that's the thing, is you can't say, oh yeah, you're faking it or whatever. It's always been this season talking about it. And we've, had to go at Simmons here or there on Van Slam and on Trust the Process. But, there is no real proof. He's not cooperating with the Sixers in terms of, sharing what progress he's made, what his like treatments and stuff are like. He's just like, yeah, I'm going to see my person, and you got to trade for me yet? No? Okay. So that's the big question around the team. Does this trade happen by the February 10th trade deadline? We are now 7 days away from this. Joel Embiid having a historic season for the 76ers. And all the question is right now, are you going to potentially waste this season for the guy and not get him some help? Because essentially $30 million is missing from their lineup every single game.
Crazy. So I guess we'll ask you this. If we were to make a bet on a trade happening, are you taking yes or are you taking no?
I'm taking no. Some of the more attractive suitors have kind of backed off. I think the Sacramento Kings, and I don't know how much of this is posturing or not, but the Sacramento Kings were kind of the front runners for a while. And they've kind of pulled out. They want to build around their young stars and not necessarily willing to give up any assets. I talked about Maxey and the season that he's having. This is somebody who might have been included in any trade packages a year ago for Ben Simmons, because there was obviously Daryl Morey, the Sixers president of basketball operations. He used to be in Houston and is very tight with James Harden. So that was, everybody was looking last year, will the Simmons for Harden trade happen? It didn't, and then what went down in the playoffs went down. But that's not over yet. There's still talk of Harden to the 76ers. He's a free agent after this year. And from what I'm seeing and reading and hearing, it looks like the Sixers are good to stand pat right now and then try and get Harden in the offseason with some sort of sign and trade going with a couple other teams, that if they make a move for Simmons now and it's not for a Lillard or a super, super high level talent, which they're honestly probably not going to get, that if they make that deal now, they're going to handcuff themselves and not be able to take a run at Harden. I don't want James Harden on the 76ers. You can go ahead and record this and feel free to play it back if they get him and win the championship next year. But I wanted Simmons over Harden. I don't want Harden at all. But I think the thing that complicates this the most is that the Sixers are now unwilling to part with additional young assets like Tyrese Maxey, like Matisse Thybulle, and that could make other teams a bit more squeamish. Now, one thing to look at is Bradley Beal. So he plays for the Washington Wizards, one of their stars. Obviously, Westbrook was moved to the Lakers last year. Bradley Beal was someone who they were targeting early. It was like Lillard or Beal were the two superstars. Beal has been hesitant to sign an extension in Washington. They started out really hot this year, like 10-3, but are like 13-24 since that run. And then Beal has expressed, like I said, a lack of desire to commit to them full time, like for long term. So you could see Washington and Philadelphia kind of swap their B-leaguered stars, and you might have Simmons end up in Washington. But Beal's injured right now. He's got a bad wrist, might miss some more time. So yeah, we'll see. I don't think a trade's going to happen. I think they'll wait.
Yeah, I have a very hard time believing that if the Washington or the 76ers went to Ben and said, "Hey, we have a trade for you. We're sending you to the Orlando Magic." I have a very hard time to believe that he would play for that franchise. So
Yeah, he's like, it's the thing. He's got no say in it. He's got absolutely zero leverage. He's got several more years left on his contract. And Daryl Morey has been very vocal and very open and like, I'm prepared to take this as long as it goes and let him sit and forfeit all the money for the rest of his contract. And hey, we'll see you in the NBA in a couple years. Now, the thing that's obviously complicates that is the fact that Embiid is in his prime and having an MVP caliber season. Yes, I said it. I don't care about Jokic. I don't care about Curry. It's Embiid this year in a walk. But the fact that you've got this star player playing at the highest level and the team's doing really well, the fact that they're, half a game or 1.5 games out of first place in the East after the year that they've had with, COVID and everything, and with Simmons missing from the team is incredible. But you just think that, if they just had that one more piece, if you had that $30 million on the court, they'd be front runner to win the NBA title or at least represent the East. So it's really, really tough and a really precarious situation for the 76ers. And Morey's big thing is, if we make a knee-jerk move right now and just focus on this season, we're sacrificing next year, the year after, and the year after. So
now, when we get into a little bit about the betting of the Philadelphia 76ers, they are right now on bet99.com in second for the division, the Atlantic Division winner. So the bet is that Brooklyn has a minus 115, while the 76ers are plus 102. The 76ers are 2 games up on the Brooklyn Nets, and the Nets, if I'm not mistaken, have lost 6 straight. So do you think that the 76ers are a good bet to put on when it comes to division winners? Because, Brooklyn has all of these problems with Kyrie not getting the shot, which means he can't play in Brooklyn and I believe also California, correct?
Yep. And yeah, not only that, but he also can't play in Canada.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm if it wasn't going to be the 76ers, I'm desperately hoping for a Brooklyn-Toronto Eastern final, or at least for them to meet in the playoffs, because I would love if just Kyrie can't play at all because the games are either going to be in New York or in Toronto. that'd be hilarious. Philadelphia, as far as winning the division, it's still going to be pretty tough because, Brooklyn has their snake bit period going on right now. Durant's been injured and out of the lineup. Harden's taken some steps back this year, and he's had trouble getting a consistent rhythm going. And then obviously everything with Kyrie Irving. I like Philadelphia in that bet over Brooklyn for the Atlantic Division, just because the team has been a solid unit pretty much the entire year. They lost a bunch of guys at times, due to COVID outbreaks and whatnot, but there's at least some cohesion there. And they also play really well together. Again, what that team is accomplishing without one of their big stars all year is, not to be ignored. So I like Philadelphia in that, but not as much as a Homer 76ers fan as I should. I still have a bit of skepticism because Brooklyn's a powerful basketball team.
And, you mentioned Jimmy Butler. He's going to be one of the players that's off to the All-Star game in a couple days. Former Philadelphia 76er. So let's jump into some of the games today. Phoenix versus the Atlanta Hawks. Now, obviously, your hatred for a certain member of the Atlanta Hawks is well known.
Yep, Trae Young and the whole team.
You mentioned about I think it's almost every episode of the Van Slam. There's a little bit of Trae Young hate in there.
Yeah, there has to be. I mean, we've got quotas to reach, and we limit the amount of stuff we can talk about Trae Young. But it's been wonderful to see the Atlanta Hawks fall on their faces this year.
Yeah, the Adelaide Zoo and Trae Young, 2 staples of the Van Slam podcast.
Yeah, got to make sure we get that in. We got to bring back some slam ball references too. I think I saw a Sportsnet or somebody recently referenced slam ball, and we're like, hey, we got to put our stamp back on that because we the ones who talk slam ball.
Yeah, you guys are the slam ball guys.
That's right.
Moving in on slam ball.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you're taking the Phoenix Suns at minus 140 on this game.
Oh God, yeah. So I remember last time, or one of the previous times I was on the show, where I was famously just very wrong about most things. It was right before, I think it was the Final Four in the NBA. and I was just banging. Nobody could stop the Phoenix Suns. No one's going to be able to stop them. They obviously didn't win the championship, but this year has just been a banner year for the Phoenix Suns. A bit of a slow start. I mean, if you can call it that, they still have only lost single-digit games. But yeah, I'm taking them over pretty much anybody right now. They got a date coming up with Philadelphia in the next week or so in Philly. And, I got that one circled on my calendar. Absolutely, that's going to be a big test. But I like anybody, or I don't like anybody against Phoenix right now. They're too good.
So we'll jump into another interesting matchup here. You got the Toronto Raptors versus the Chicago Bulls. Now, the Bulls have looked unstoppable this season. It looks like DeMar DeRozan is reestablishing himself as one of the best players in the game. The Bulls are at plus 160, Toronto Raptors at minus 190. Do you think the Raptors can push the envelope and pull off the upset?
They've been one of the strangest teams to watch this year. The Raptors have, because just when you kind of go into a game, they're going to get rolled up. Absolutely. They end up playing really, really solid ball. And then against teams they should be absolutely clobbering, they lose. Like, I don't know what's wrong with them and the Pistons, but yeah, I still feel Chicago is going to win that game. Chicago's taken huge steps this year. I think DeMar DeRozan should be considered in the MVP race, maybe not in the top 3, but DeRozan's name should be popping up with some pundits as far as potential dark horse MVP candidates this year. I think Billy Donovan's going to probably win Coach of the Year, I would say, because Chicago's taken a huge leap. DeRozan's such a big part of that. Ball's such a big part of that. I like the Bulls over the Raptors. It's not a controversial statement, but yeah, I would go with Chicago. I don't think the Raptors can pull that off.
And staying on the Raptors, just announced Fred VanVleet is going to hit the All-Star as a reserve as well.
Yeah, good for him.
So very well deserved on his part. Pretty special player, that's for sure, for the Toronto Raptors. They go from Kyle Lowry to VanVleet. That's a pretty good transition.
Yeah, especially when they had, the DeRozan for Kawhi trade. So DeRozan was essentially the identity of that team. And then DeRozan moves out, you get Kawhi for a year, they win the title, then Kawhi skips out. And then, okay, now this is Kyle Lowry's team. And after a couple seasons of that, now Lowry's gone. And you look at Pascal Siakam, you're not sure, is this going to be the guy for them? But I've always enjoyed Fred VanVleet. And I think he's had a really great year in stepping up and kind of being like the man on that team. Like Scotty Barnes too.
Yeah. We're going to skip the Kings and Warriors because just leave that game alone.
Yeah.
But the big matchup for today, the LA Lakers versus the LA Clippers. This is always a big matchup because it's kind of embarrassing to lose to your crosstown rival.
Yeah.
So right now we have a plus 135 on the Lakers and a minus 155 on the Clippers. I think, what is this going to be, Kawhi's second or third game back?
Yeah, something like that. Hasn't been many.
So that probably does play a big factor into why the Clippers are the favorites for this game.
Yeah, I would go with the Clippers here. The Lakers have been such a tumultuous team all season to watch. Like, Westbrook will have a good game and then several trash games. That's a team I think might be a lot more active at the trade deadline than people might think. Just because, LeBron's getting up there. Who knows how many more kicks at the can he has. And the Lakers have always been built to we'll make the playoffs and then we'll go on a tear from there. But I think they're currently sitting outside looking in. They're at ninth, and I think the Clippers are hovering above them a little bit. And if they don't kind of get things going and put together some, decent streaks, the West is really, really strong. So, I like the Clippers here with Kawhi back, but the Lakers, are always going to be in the mix as long as LeBron's there. They can't say help.
Now, question for you. Are the Lakers a potential landing spot for Ben Simmons, or is there just not enough trade capital there?
There's not enough trade capital there. I know that's where he would like to go. So, as an indignant 76ers fan, I don't want him to get what he wants. I'd rather, Orlando sounds good. Yeah, maybe Detroit. What's cold and miserable? Does Winnipeg have a team? Can they trade him to the Winnipeg Jets somehow? He obviously wants to go to California. He wants to go to the Lakers and everything, but there's no way they have the draft capital to make that deal appealing for the 76ers. I also feel there may be a bit of bitterness on both sides in Philadelphia. And all right, you want to go to California? It's going to be to Sacramento. And we're going to want like Halliburton coming back, De'Aaron Fox coming back. Like their asking price for Sacramento was apparently like very, very, very high. But it's been like that for all the teams. But I think if Sacramento's not a suitor, there's zero chance that Ben Simmons ends up playing basketball in California. So, and the Lakers, like they've made their moves. This is kind of what they have. That's why I'm thinking you might see something really outside the box when it comes to the trade deadline for them. But I don't think there's any chance in hell they can land Simmons.
Sounds, it should be an interesting couple weeks, especially with the trade deadline coming up. Hopefully the 76ers deal with this issue. But hey, if you're going to fine him the whole season and let him sit on the bench, it is what it is, right?
He still watches the games. Apparently he watches like every game, and he works out at the facility, and I don't know if he attends like tape sessions and stuff, but he's still like this weird specter hovering around the organization. Danny Green on his podcast today was talking about it and saying that, he's not sure it'd be the right move to move on from him if they can't get what the asking price is. Now, here's the thing. If the trade deadline comes and goes, what's interesting to see, and I think would be an interesting bet, would be, does he play at all this season? Because I can tell you, if he doesn't get traded, that's not going to be, okay, well, let's fold up camp and we'll wait till the offseason. There will probably still be a pitch made from the Sixers side to try and get him on the court, showcasing his ability and helping out the team. I can't imagine that he's not going through some sort of FOMO right now, watching the team have the success it's having, watching all of them play together for each other. But on the flip side of that, you have to wonder what it would do to their team chemistry that they've excelled at building this year. Joel Embiid has taken a massive step as far as his maturity and leadership goes this year. What it would do to the team and the dynamic to now all of a sudden, here comes Ben coming back in with his tail between his legs, wants to be a part of this. Will he gel with them? Will they accept him? That's going to be the interesting thing there is, will he play if they don't trade him?
Yeah, he's kind of like a ghost roaming the halls of the practice facility.
He is, yeah. And apparently he was working out because he's famously into his YMCA gyms and working out in these, these high school gyms and all that sort of stuff. But some footage leaked a couple weeks ago of one of his like shoot arounds or one of his workouts. So now he's been, I think, exclusively using the 76ers facility. Not at the same time as anybody else, but that's where he's getting his workouts is in using the team facility because he doesn't want like the attention of all that sort of stuff. He's a weird NBA star, just very sort of reserved and not wanting like a lot of the attention, but also he's somebody who has been essentially like spoon-fed his entire life and told, you're the greatest, you're the greatest, you're the greatest. Gets to the NBA, he's the rookie of the year, got some things to work on, sure, but over the years hasn't addressed any of that and doesn't necessarily feel, from what I've gathered and read and heard, that he needs to. It's like, I'm fine the way I am. I do these three things really well. So what if I don't do that fourth and fifth thing really well? It's like, well, it's not like college. You don't have the option to not be, especially with the skill set that he has in the position he wants to play. He wants to be a point guard. So I'm sorry, you don't get to do that and not shoot. I mean, we saw a lot of that happen as Sixers fans where people just like, oh yeah, let him shoot. Leave him out there beyond the 3-point line. He ain't going to hurt you. And then people keying in on Embiid. That's one of the big jumps this season that's happened is Embiid's passing out of double teams. Because the season that everyone's just collapsing on him, but he's doing an amazing job finding other people and creating offense for others, which essentially is like kind of Simmons' job too. So you got Maxey, who's controlling the backcourt, driving to the hoop, being, a really, super acceptable point guard this year. And you also have Embiid, who's facilitating a lot of passing and offense too. So between the two of them, they've kind of replaced Ben Simmons.
Now, quick question before we finish up with football here. What are you more passionate about, the 76ers or the Adelaide Zoo?
Oh, geez. Oh, I'm passionate about that zoo. Don't make me choose. I'll say this. I will say this. Both bring me joy, but the Adelaide Zoo has never hurt me. The Adelaide Zoo has never made me sad.
Yes, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
How could the Casa Warriors really disappoint you?
They can't. Oh, Martina and Jeffrey. Oh, some of the best Casawaris in the. I'm saying it right now. 2 best Casawaris in the entire world. Martina and Jeffrey at the Adelaide Zoo. I'm passionate about that zoo.
So we'll finish up here with the Super Bowl. In case you are unaware, it's happening in 10 days, and it's the LA Rams versus the Cincinnati Bengals. So we got 2 animals fighting it out this year in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we got the LA Rams at -200, the Cincinnati Bengals at +170. So where are you leaning with this one?
I'm looking back over the last several weeks and just thinking about how much it could have made off of the Cincinnati Bengals and this run they're on. Because, yes, it is also in the Lunar New Year parlance. It's the year of the Tiger. So maybe that means something that the Bengals are going on this run. They are. I'm sure Jerry Jones is asking right now when the Lunar Year of the Cowboy is. But it's hard to say. I would on paper, it's 100% the Rams here. I've been a passive supporter of the Rams. I'm a Cardinals guy. So, same division. But I like what the Rams have done. They've completely mortgaged their future in order to, go on this shot, which usually I don't necessarily like, but they're not bringing in like free agents. They are sacrificing in order to bring these caliber players in. I have always liked Matthew Stafford, and I'm really rooting for him because he toiled away in Detroit for most of his career. And I always thought he was a really good player with no help and no support outside of Calvin Johnson. So I want it to happen for Stafford, but I do also love what the Bengals have done this year. Nobody gave him a shot at any of this. I love the youth that they have. Like all their key players are all under like 24 years old. The amount of guys they had that played together at LSU. Like I love a college quarterback and his college receiver connecting and playing together in the NFL. I love that. And you see with him and Jamar Chase, the season that both of those guys have had, like there's chemistry that goes back years. And I love that. But the thing about the Bengals here that I do like and makes me cautious to bet on the Rams is that with what the Bengals achieved last week, being down significantly against the Chiefs on the road in Arrowhead, and the fact that they just kind of shrugged that off and then came back and won that game, at no point will they think that they are out of it during the Super Bowl. They could be down 3 touchdowns and be like, you know what? Not a problem. Like we've come back from worse. I don't think it's ever going to get worse for them than being down that much in Kansas City against that Mahomes-led Chiefs team, who I declared would win the Super Bowl preemptively. I think when he threw that touchdown to Kelsey, I think in like the first quarter or second quarter where Mahomes had just like all day running around at like the 10-yard line and then found him. I'm like, no one could stop these guys. The amount of protection, but then Cincinnati did within that game. So if I was betting, I'd bet on the Bengals.
So there you had it. The LA Rams are going to win the Super Bowl because Bowman is taking the Bengals.
I'm always wrong. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Bengals just have that team of destiny feel about them. And they have that sort of swagger where like they feel like they're the only ones who ever believed in themselves and nobody else did. Like we do a franchise pool where you pick teams. The Bengals were like one of the last teams picked in the 4th round. They come off of winning 4 games last year and now they're in the Super Bowl. Like the amount of confidence and swagger they have is just off the charts. And I don't think they think at all that they can be beat, even though it's a much superior Rams team on the other side.
Fair.
So we'll wrap up with this last question. Very important betting here on the Super Bowl. Heads or tails for the opening kickoff?
Tails.
Or opening coin toss?
Tails never fails.
Life saving on tails. That's what I'm doing. All in. I love the prop bet. The anthem time is one of my favorites. That one is I prefer that one to the color of Gatorade and all that sort of stuff. Anthem time.
You don't like the bet where it's where they take which song is the halftime show performer going to sing in what order, and
I like that stuff too. And that's going to be a great halftime show. I'm more excited for this halftime show than I think I've been for one in a long time. It's going to be awesome. And nice for them to get like Kendrick Lamar in there for the young people.
Yeah, it's like,
That's
what's
right.
the point of playing the game? Just do a 3-hour halftime show.
Wouldn't mind it. Well, like halftime shows are usually like 13 minutes, 11 minutes. Like that's what the time of them have been the last couple of years. And I'm just thinking like, will everyone be able to get their stuff in? Like I would be down with hearing 13 minutes from Snoop Dogg, 13 minutes from Eminem, 13 minutes from Dr. Dre, 13 minutes from Mary J. Blige. Kendrick Lamar, I'm not the biggest fan, but like I get it. So the fact that they've got, all these huge iconic hip hop stars and they're going to probably have to condense it to like, 12 minutes. It'll be medleys for sure. I've seen Jay-Z in concert. He never plays full versions of his songs. It's just like medleys that weave in and out, 2 minutes of this, a minute of this. But I think it's going to be an awesome halftime show. Can't wait.
Now, one last question here. Do they pull a Green Day at the NHL All-Star game a couple years ago and drop an F-bomb somewhere in that halftime show?
I hope so. And just tell them like, hey, in this verse of this song, we're going to do it. So just have the censor button ready. Obviously, it'll be on a delay, but I very much hope that they do, because that'll be like, their credibility off the charts. We don't care if it's this huge platform. We don't care if it's on all these TVs. We're still Dr. Dre. We're still Snoop Dogg. We're still Eminem. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the one who's going to drop it is I would think that it would probably be Snoop.
I don't know. Snoop seems so like domesticated, Like I don't think it would be Snoop. I would put my money on, I don't know. Dre's such a businessman too. I'd put my money on maybe Dre or maybe Mary J. Blige. I think
so. Make sure to head over to bet99.com because over there they do have quite a few Super Bowl bets, whether it's longest touchdown, who's going to score it, who's going to be the MVP. Just they have everything. Unfortunately, they do not have what color Gatorade is going to be in the winner's Gatorade bottle or whatever.
Okay.
Or whatever
the one that gets dumped on the coach. Yeah, the big cooler. They don't have that, eh?
No, unfortunately not. But maybe closer to the day. I like the bets where it's like how long is the anthem going to be? At what how many jets are going to fly over the stadium?
That's good. I love the Super Bowl. I love all the betting for the Super Bowl. All this, all that. Like that's what I'm into. Not just like who's going to win, who's going to lose, but all the prop bets and stuff. Like, what would like the first score being a safety pays out at something ridiculous. Did you see the guy? It was like last week. It was verified as an accurate bet. He used $20 in credits he had for the betting site and bet on the Bengals game and the Rams game and got the scores of both exactly right. And it paid out like $300,000 or something from his $20 like credit that he had. Like that's amazing.
See, when you put down when you get betting credits from a website, sometimes it works out. So when you're heading over to bet99.com, make sure to head over to the Area 51 Sports Network before so you can get your deposit back in additional bets. Because who knows, maybe you'll pull off a winner like that.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, okay, well, who's the longest odds to win the Stanley Cup next year? Place that bet down. I am looking at maybe putting some money on the Sixers this year before their odds get too good.
Yeah. Bet the house on the Arizona Coyotes next year. That's the moral of the story here.
They don't even have a house to play in.
Yeah. Hey man, those I heard that those college campuses get pretty rowdy, so
it'll be like the Roxy flu. all the visiting teams are going to frat parties and stuff. Okay, maybe that's a smart idea. Not bad, Coyotes. Not bad.
10-cent beer night.
Oh, deadly.
I don't know if they can still do that, but that would be pretty interesting to watch.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up here, do you want to run down your long list of shows that you're on, where people can find you and all that fun stuff?
Sure thing. So Trust the Process, show I do with Wyatt Arndt, the stanchion, usually releasing episodes on Saturday. You can find that at TTP Show Van on Twitter. I've got Van Slam for this very Area 51 network with Joshua Griffith and Sean Warren. That usually records and is released on Saturdays, talking Australian zoos, talking basketball, talking slam ball. We're going to get that back. We have At the Movies 10 years later, me and my childhood friend Janine watch and review whatever movies were number one at the box office 10 years ago. Starting out the 2012 season soon. At the Movies 10 on Twitter for that one. And then Wrestle Nation at NEW Wrestle Pod. Myself, Wyatt Arndt, and Mike Paris break down the local independent wrestling scene here in Vancouver, as well as the world of wrestling, AEW, WWE, anything that comes up. You can find that show at NEW Wrestling or at NEW Wrestle Pod, and that's the 4.
Yeah, I have to say, all of them are pretty good. Van Slam, of course, we're going to promote here on the Area 51 Sports Network. Talking Australian zoos and talking Australian basketballers.
Yep. Oh yeah, those are the two very hot topics for us on the show weekly.
So yeah, make sure to check everything out that Bowman does. Make sure to keep your eyes out on the Area 51 Sports Network social feeds. There is going to be a special announcement, as Sean has teased, over the next couple of days. So make sure to keep an eye out on that. Bowman, thanks for joining us. As you guys can tell, Andy's computer kind of died. So but thanks to Andy for joining once again. And make sure to follow all of us here on the Area 51 Sports Network. And make sure to head over to bet99.com for all your betting odds. So thank you once again for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.